Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to Opus Magnum. A new day. Once again, let's jump into the universal solvent because the last puzzle took like 3.5 hours if I recall correctly. And so these puzzles are now getting just incredibly complicated and long, and I really just want to hopefully be done with them fairly quickly. So the story goes, when I was in university, I had so many ideas. It's almost nice in a way to just have to do to have just the one now. Do you feel it too? A sense as though I were being uh, guided along a path towards some inevitability. A shame that nobody will ever know about how I made the universal solvent under great duress with only the barest of ingredients. Perhaps someone will tell the story one day. It seems rather unlikely. The whole point of making this is so that there won't be any evidence left behind. Yeah, and these are not getting bigger. So, this is not getting any better. This does look like this is probably a pattern where you're starting with, well, that looks like lead, but the symbol's different. No, what is this? You're starting with 10, and then the next one should be iron. Is that how this works? No. It is 10 in the middle, then each of the base elements around it, and then salt around that. Oh, this is going to be a nightmare. We're going to be using this again, obviously, and we're going to be using this. Is that the only way we get to the iron? Is using this, or is there another way to do that? We may not be using salt, but we will be using a combiner. You can kind of already see that this is going to be a nightmare scenario. Space-wise, it may be easier to have one of these at like an edge and just spin the whole thing around as you're placing it down, but realistically you're going to need this for these anyways, so that's not going to work. You almost feel like there's going to be something better than Van Berlo's wheel that gives you the Mors and Vitae elements. This is the bonding glyph. This is the duplication glyph. Okay. It basically feels like you're going to need a little bit in every direction. But what is that center going to look like? What in the world is that center going to look like? I'm thinking that is probably where we would start. And this potentially could be out of the way for the most part fairly quickly. And we could probably even build on top of this pattern fairly quickly. And then it really would only just be a matter of, can I hold on to this piece and drop everything? I might be able to pull that off. And then we would need, I suppose, something maybe here. But could we reach this? No. Put one here. Put one here. Do that. Do that. But I can't effectively reach that. We can grab it here though, and then pull it back. And that probably wouldn't waste any extra space. If anything, it might also just benefit you somewhat to take up some less space and keep it as compact as possible. So the weird part about this, I think, is you probably don't even want to do the outer points of the star, and you probably just want to make the hexagon grid, and you want to probably leave room for the final pattern to end up with this in whatever orientation it is in. It really doesn't matter so much as long as this and this match, and the pattern out here goes in this pattern. Okay. So then we think we need anything else to start with. I think you do this. I think you start here. You grab this and just start with, you probably just want to put them here and get your mors and vitae to start with. So rotate, extend, reset, grab, rotate, plus, reset. And then it will be a while before we need to come back to that point and do anything, so now we would want to build this center point, which would be rotate, rotate, extend with another extend, grab, retract, reset. Nope, that won't work. It's not just grab, retract, reset, it's grab, retract, plus reset. Then we have to once again undo our reset position. Well, actually, let's just not reset at all. Let's instead just let go, minus, extend, grab, retract, and reset. And let's just let that play out. That wasn't the right symbol, but whatever. That explains something. Okay. There's no point in even resetting at this point. Should just be let go, retract, grab, and there's no way we're not swinging over here, so this will be marked as 1. So rotate twice. And then I kind of feel like I want to extend and drop compared to moving forward, extending 1, and then dropping. Well, yeah, actually, if I go 1, 2, 3 here, and then I swing this way, I won't grab anything anyways. I think there might be a more efficient way to do this. Go 1, yeah, let's go 1 forward first. And then just drop there. And then rotate. Rotate 1, extend 1, grab 1, rotate back 1, and then I think we will just pivot 3 times, and then let go. Then we'll rotate back here and here. Rotate back, retract, rotate back. I probably want to just keep the code similar. There. Grab. Rotate forward 2 times in that direction. And then leave. We probably want to extend and pivot everything that way. Let's set this back to the right start point and see if this works. I kind of feel like you have, yeah, probably need another pivot there. Yeah, I do. It kind of feels like you might be able to save a little bit more space if you put in a little bit more code and have these 2 pieces here like this. So this would just be upside down at that point. And then this piece here would be still swung upon, I imagine. Although you could also save yourself some space by swinging this way and then backing up and then swinging back and then never touching this part. if it was really your goal to do that, but none of this code matters that much. Like, we can't get into this quagmire anymore. We spent 3.5 hours on the last one, and it just is not reasonable to continue down that pattern. Alright. The good news is everything up until this next point is pretty much the same in a crazy way. So you'll potentially have 6 of the exact same repeats, put in a little bit of code, and then 6 of the exact same repeats. Hopefully. Yeah, we're gonna have to live on some major faith, but oh, does that really work? No, I don't think it does. It would work if we had a different arm and we could write the code at the beginning, but because we have all this setup happening, we're just gonna have to put the same code over and over again. Oh well, whatever. At least we have the resets, right? So pick up now and then rotate, and it would be so nice if you could just double click this and say rotate 2 times, 3 times, right click it so it says 2 times, 3 times. Anything simple like that, even as a way of putting some functionality, extra functionality, quality of life elements here. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4 means 1 more, then a plus. That should connect with this piece, and ideally push it so it's here. So I think at that point you just extend and pivot twice, and then reset. Let's see if that works. Oh, the code is actually wrong. And we've got something that's going to crash into itself, which makes the potential nightmare scenario happen. Well, we may just have to spin it a bit further and then bring it back, or we may just need less than 1 pivot, less than 2 pivots. Yeah, that may be a case where we only need 1 pivot, and then we're gonna have to find the code to figure out what I did wrong here. Picks that up. And instead of pivoting 3 times, it just needs to extend 1. 1, 2, 3. Pivot, extend 1, then let go, then retract, I guess 2 at that point to get everything back in order. This one is definitely being touched. Okay, what am I doing wrong here? I am pivoting it the wrong way, I think. And I don't know if that fully makes sense to me. I really wish we could just drag this piece here. I'm not doing anything wrong, I don't think. Let's now just repeat the code and see if we can do the same thing. This one is an extend. Maybe extend is wrong here in this case. Because we're going to need to make this connection, then stick to this connection, and then spin the next two connections. We're almost certainly going to touch this, and this, and this. And there's a decent chance we're going to hit everything down here and probably here, if I was to guess. Wouldn't be surprised if we actually do shoot up quite a bit in this direction also, so much so that it might be area efficient to just move the final product a little bit higher. We'll see how that works out later. Okay. The code is slightly different now. We're gonna let go. We're going to retract. We're going to grab. We're going to pivot one more time after we extend. Also, this item here, number one, needs to go 1, 2, 3, 4, and unfortunately I just don't think there really is a pattern here to spin this around better, because this piece is touching this piece, and then this piece is going to be touching that, so we are just going to be spinning things around. We may not actually be using this piece. Went one too far. Okay, so one too many there, and otherwise it looks fine. So I'm hoping I can just then, right, so this would be at that point, needs to probably just rotate one more on this, so we'll do that. Then pick up, rotate 4 times. Still completely unmanageable interface, plus extend, pivot, at that point, that may be all I need to really do on this one. So we'll just put a reset and hit play again. And this is another one of these puzzles that feels like you very easily could have one of the 8-way arms just loading up salts ready to hand them to add to the edge. But I don't know if that really would be any more efficient. Alright, I wanted to go the other direction. To be green. Let's just see if it ends up pivoted one time. That's all we really need to know. Okay. And so you're going to have a bit of a weird situation happening here where you're going to end up, oh, I don't even know what I was going to say. Forget it. Doesn't probably matter. Yeah, you're going to have an A and a B code that is slightly different, but not really that different. If this then is turned to, let's see, if it gets turned to green, then we need, at that point, I think 1, 2, 3. Flip that. And then, kind of for the most part, the code should once again be the same. 1, 2, 3, 4. Plus extend. Probably pivot. And then more than likely at that level, this is where we need to have it to be in the right position. So I think it's probably another extension and then a reset. And let's just hope that works. Also, at a point, I think this one should then change to salt. So we can grab the salt and still have salt when we fly over this part. If anything, maybe because it's just a new day, this doesn't feel that complicated or that frustrating. So there is a slight fear in my mind that the last puzzle wasn't actually that complicated or that frustrating either. And I simply was maybe just being a bit of a baby. Alright. I think we touch here. 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 Okay, next bits of code. We just need to kind of figure it out. It's basically the same code again, just now where our pivot point is going to need to end up. If I take this and I pivot this, it's almost certainly going to not work. So I'm going to need to probably create a pattern here, then let go, then grab this, and then try and pivot it and hope that works. It may not. I may have to just straight up create a point here and then try and figure out if I can grab the third one. It would be like this and pivot that. Or we may have just a whole nother problem that we're going to have to figure out some other way. But you still have this major problem, and I'm saying the same thing every episode now, but major problem of just the exact same code, but to get from point A to point B never changes. Actually, to this point B here, it never changes in any of my code. Now, maybe if I had never been trained in programming and I had just no idea the concept and didn't think around the concepts of functional programming, maybe my code would be completely different every time. But you would have to make an incredibly persuasive argument to say that having bespoke code for every single action and not reusing any ideas is good programming in any scenario. I mean, that's kind of the exact opposite of the idea of programming. Is instead of standing on the shoulders of other giants and using code and learning from your own code, the idea of potentially redoing everything or starting from scratch every single time seems ridiculous. Okay, so how do we get this downward is where this is going to come down to, is what could I grab to get this in the right position, or grab that in the right position. Let's see. You probably put it here, and you probably don't extend. You probably instead then let go, then extend, then grab and pivot. Let's see if that works. There are scenarios certainly where starting over scratch, starting over new might be helpful, particularly if you already have, if your code that you're working on currently isn't working, or if you just really feel like there's a better way to do things. But a kind of generic concept or idea of starting over from scratch, I think, is fairly ridiculous. Let's go ahead and extend before we pivot, and I think we've got everything down. Unfortunately, we're going to have to repeat this code 5 more times, which frankly just copy and paste. I would be I've lowered my expectations so much. If I could just copy and paste things, I think I'd be happy with that. Okay. Yep, that code looks good. Seems like we will touch these. We'll want to keep an eye out to see if we touch these also. It doesn't seem like so far we've touched any of these. So there is definitely a potential argument for moving the final place there. Resetting this. The fact that this is repeating so often also potentially makes an argument that maybe I could have just had this here and this, say, here, and then that would have saved you a lot of steps and cycles. Yeah, that is a possibility. And that might be a point where you would have to throw out your code, certainly, as if there was just a realization that there would be major optimization around removing or moving the locations. Go. Extend. Grab. Extend again. And then pivot. Then reset. Yeah, because you're grabbing this piece from behind. So if there was just nothing here that ever got touched, which it kind of feels like nothing ever does get touched, there is an optimized way this code would work. And at this point, this one is touching this one. But that still would probably be covered if this was higher. So, yeah, I'm thinking higher is probably the real solution. And then that one would pivot onto that. So maybe you'd have one extra touched point there per area. We are building it though, so I think this code is safe enough to just repeat 3 more times. We'll take a risk that we won't make a mistake. Or actually, I think we have to do it 4 more times, so I think it probably would benefit us to do it twice, test it, just to make sure we got all the right symbols. It's fairly easy to accidentally grab a retract when you meant an extend, or just stupidly put the wrong thing down. One more here. We're moving this down from 4 spins to 1 spin. While it does save you space, it still would not really change any of this other code, I don't think. Just a first glance and first thought of it. So it's not like you would cut the code in half for each one of these steps. So like go, extend, grab, extend, pivot, reset. I'm wondering if perhaps you could save some space by building more on top of this. We're using a little bit of this certainly while we're building, but I don't know if maybe we can do a little bit better. Right, so we're at area 44 right now, and yeah, not too far off. I feel like though, if we were going to move this up, it's going to have to be up just 1, because this piece is over this bonding, so that would just never work. I think that still is the right move. Maybe we just put it pre-pivot and it would be in the right spot anyways. Alright, that code worked. So let's just repeat it 2 more times. And we'll put the last bit of code without a pivot, and we will just see where it kind of drops after it extends. And we'll see how that goes. Drop, extend, grab, extend, pivot, reset. This one be mostly the same. And that does kind of put you in a quagmire of real programming. This still think I would call a macro and not real programming, where you have a scenario where you would either have to artificially manipulate things, or you would have to cheat in some way, for lack of a better term, to get the final step to make sense and follow the exact same pattern as the remainder, because there is a different action happening here. And even in a function, you'd probably just let the function do its same thing every time, and then you would take maybe one extra step or one extra cycle that's unnecessary in favor of better, more readable code. And that probably won't even affect too much, because depending on how you've changed some of the compiler settings, which most people don't even do, more than likely a compiler would optimize functions out in such a way that it could remove any extra cycles you would add just by making your code function that way. This one is touching here and probably touching here. And even if you are adding a few cycles on a CPU by modern computing standards, avoiding the introduction of bugs is way better of an idea. Okay. We could pivot everything back down here, and I think that would get everything back where it belongs. Or we could extend one more on a pivot. Let's try that. Let's see. Add another extend after we pivot. And I don't even want to spend the extra time to move the final position until we kind of know what the final position is. And I'm not even really paying attention to the final orientation, although arguably the final orientation probably isn't anything other than a 180 of where we started, if not a 360 of where we started. It would be highly unlikely to be anything else. Okay, let's, sorry for coughing also. Alright, so it's the that bumps the area up to 50 if we do that, and we kind of don't use this, or this if we do it that way. So I don't think I want that. Let's get rid of that and see where the final position ends up otherwise. Maybe we should just keep an eye on when does something touch something that's new. That touched one thing. We're still at 43 at this point. We just hit 44. We just hit 45. Now we're at 47. Guess let's just leave it at that. Let's not drive ourselves crazy trying to find solutions. I don't think this one is used. I don't think this one maybe isn't used, but it probably is. Yeah. I'm not sure even this one is used. Let's just hit play. Yeah. As long as we keep everything kind of spinning in this direction, it doesn't start growing. So that one gets touched, and then that one and that one would get touched. These two are getting touched. Maybe that one's getting touched. Whatever. 43 seems like a very reasonable amount of space. And as far as money is concerned, yeah, I have a hard time seeing a scenario where you would use less money. Okay, we made a slight mistake here in that we just need that to reset. 2. Yeah, I don't see a way that you could spend any less money than what I have done. As far as area, yes, I think you could put this piece here, and arguably you might even be able to put this piece somewhere down, like over here, and save yourself 2 spaces. There might be a different way to manipulate this so the end product is better right next to things, and you could save 2 or 3, maybe even 4 more spaces. But I'm fairly happy to end this at 48 minutes and just be done with it. We are once again in a scenario though where the number of cycles seems to be just too high for it to go into that speed up mode. And that kind of stinks. I suspect maybe if you put a track more in parallel with the combination, you might be able to then turn around and work on something like this more. That would make a lot of sense. Move this down here, move this upside down here. We may play with that for a brief second just to show it off in a theory, but not actually try and solve it. And now if you were going to make this some highly efficient process, you would probably need a lot of crazy tricks to do it. I'm thinking actually quite a few crazy tricks that I'll see if I can potentially discuss. Again, just in theory. I don't want to bother to try and optimize for cycles on any of these puzzles because it's just not worth your time. Frankly, if I was doing a job like this and I was really spending a lot of effort and a lot of time to accomplish something like this, I'd be probably contracting for thousands upon thousands of dollars. I would not go cheap by any means. Area-wise, apparently that is the smallest amount of area as far as the game is concerned, which I question, really. I really think that there is a possibility that you could save some area by doing this and this, having this here, like that. And then maybe you could move. See, well, you could get this here and this here. I guess the real question is, can you reach that component in doing it that way? No. Probably could do this if you can reach far enough. Can you reach far enough? No. Here, 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 here. But you definitely could pick this up and do this and this, or this then this. But then could you grab that piece down there? You can grab it this way, but there's no way to grab it this way. But even if that did use a need or necessitate moving potentially up here, so then I could grab that one, that one, that one, and that one. Could this grab? Yeah, you kind of need a piece there. You can grab everything except for this piece. Interesting. So there's a hard limiting spot here where this wouldn't work. You've got to be able to be right next to it to grab everything. Which maybe doesn't change too much. And you can still pretty much have that. You could still I feel like this part here would have to be something like this, which would bring back to area. Maybe you would be using this area, maybe you wouldn't. Maybe you would be using this area, maybe you wouldn't. I think the goal would be definitely to not have that use that area. Feel like your goal also would be potentially to move this down there. But if you were going to do that, then that overlaps. So do something closer to that. which then again probably means you would be touching that. And in all fairness, it feels like you probably would also be touching this and this. I don't see any way you really wouldn't be touching that. And I don't think there's a way to extend this direction. Like you can reach that one, sure, but then you can't reach that one. You can reach that one. There probably is a way you could swap this around a little bit. Maybe you could even tweak this a little bit so it's more like that. But I still don't see a way you're not touching this at that point. So there may just not really be a good solution. And you could do something like this, certainly, and try and bring up more room. That would also mean this point is no longer needed to grab this, which maybe then means you could do something along this lines, but probably not. Probably are still fairly bound. You have to be able to touch things like that. Go ahead and just put it like that and that. But then your main combiner factor still runs into problems. Yeah, that's probably about as compact as I think you could get it. And that's 39, and I can't help but think that when all is said and done, you are going to just end up doing something else, because that then just very quickly jumped to 47. When it swings over this part, it jumps to 47, so you'd have to be incredibly careful to not do that. But yeah, I do think there is a way to potentially get this below 43, and they're not accounting for that. As far as number of cycles here, we see that that was ridiculously low. And as far as gold, that was 150. I think that is the ridiculously lowest amount you could probably do. So theoretically, now if you were going to just try and build your system as efficiently as possible to make what almost certainly would be a conveyor belt solution, we could certainly talk about how there are patterns here, but the patterns are somewhat wrong. Like there isn't an angle here that matches and connects the right things at all. So you would probably have something close to like this, and that would get these connections and these three connections. It would also try and make a connection at a certain point, but maybe you could break the connection later if necessary, or maybe you just move it forwards sometimes and move it back sometimes. As far as building one of these, this is another great example of where you would ideally want a mechanism to just be ready to go as far as efficiency is concerned. Ready to pick one up, put it here. Ready to pick up the next one, put it here. Potentially even one ready to just like push this Vims and Vigors into the right position, which you could angle that certainly, so it would go kind of in the right position, sorta. This one it wouldn't be in the right position, but this one would. So maybe you would do something closer to that. Yeah, that would work. Put one here and put one here. Have a piston ready to pick up the Vims and Vigors, put it here, and then another piston ready to pick the Vims and Vigor and put it. Well, that's not the right spot, is it? So there may not really be a way to do this. It may not matter either though, so you may just have potentially a track where it picks it up, then comes over here, and then deposits it there. So that would be like one source of the 4 sources of salt that you're given. There's obvious way to make this faster by just putting this here, and these are really just mechanisms we've already discussed too. Just put one here, and potentially even have your center spot ready to go, which would mean probably, let's see, can we put these all in this general lineup where this would grab one, push and push? No, it's too far. Push one here and here. No. Probably just need to move everything over one. One here, one here. Just push it that way. Actually, that should work. Then put that there, and then that there. We'll set these all up to their kind of starting positions. Don't even worry about that. And then one efficiency that seems kind of fairly obvious on this, as we move this out of the way, is that if we add the right piece ready to go, so maybe this one ready to push that way, this one ready to push that way, maybe this one ready to grab that way. If we set this in this pattern, like here, we can create another one at the exact same time. On the other side. No real telling how you're going to get that to work. And frankly, doing the conveyor belt thing also is going to have this crash into it, so there would be kind of a nightmare scenario around that. That here, and that to there. And that this is kind of a great example of why, in theory, I'd be willing to do this. In practical terms, not so much. So, yeah. Make a blue come this way. Make a green earth show up the other way. This isn't going to go very far. Certainly. It could go that far. And then we need to swing up here. That's not going to go the right direction either. That's totally in the way. Here. And maybe a track would be necessary. You can certainly see how this would get incredibly complicated. We totally haven't made room for things at all. And yeah. If we were going to try and do like a spin combine at the end, probably would have to be off this spot. Just a couple here, ready to pick up the salts and push them on the end as the final product is being spun here and moved probably over in that direction. Yeah. And the fact that this needs to be moved downward, I think immediately highlights how, if this is even doable, it's only going to be doable by the most elite and most patient, the most frankly psychotic programmers out there, people willing to put way too much time and effort into code just to get it to potentially work. Because yeah, this is extended by 3, so I have no way of getting a salt point there. With all this other stuff in the way, I'd have to potentially rethink everything all over again. Potentially putting the salt aspects like over here, and it really would just be a case of nudging things out of the way in an attempt to squeeze everything in. If I did this, can this grab this? Yes, it can. So then I could put everything kind of over this direction. And then that potentially, like ideally you would have it here, but that won't work, so probably pick this up, swing it, and then push it. Would be more than likely your real solution there. Pick one up, swing it, push it to some kind of combination there. Although, how you get that combination, I don't even know. Yeah. Regardless, it would be kind of an obvious mess. And 740 gold. And just a ridiculous amount of coding. Let's move the story forward. I'm about to dissolve the transmutation engine itself. We must make sure every piece of the plan is set. As far as I can ascertain, we're ready. So interesting, they are using a universal solvent to destroy the transmutation engine. So either this is going to introduce a whole new type of alchemy and discover something new, or we're at the end of the game. I think we might get something very different and very new. It'd be crazy if it turned out the transmutation engine itself is a dumbed down version of alchemy, and there is an actually more powerful to the metal would be the computer term, bare metal type programming language under it. Nils has taken the package. Claire is set for her stunning debut. And are you truly ready? I should be the one asking you. There's no choice. It must go, all of it. Then good riddance. Yes, let's go. So we have a text here. No time for talk. And Varin Ravari shows up at the abandoned tailor shop at the downriver quarters. Surprise, I found you, hiding out in this rotting hovel like the rat you are. You bastard of an alchemist. Don't think I don't know every part of your plot, and the names of all of your accomplices too. ... from Anataeus, which, frankly, as the main character of the story as he was introduced, ... is becoming a bit of a habit for him, where he's barely saying anything or saying nothing at all. I'll have to admit it was a decent plan. Everyone at the ball was quite shocked. And then Lady Soraya's confused look, her biggest eyes, my lipstick. Why, it was a gift from the Colvane alchemist. Luckily, House Colvin's guards are no match for me, and I'll explain it all to them later, once I return with your head. ... Funny thing is, the assassination of Terrace Colvane and the collapse of his house hardly even matters to me. Terrace was an idiot, easily beguiled by promises of riches and wealth, and his house didn't deserve to be in his hands. This guy looks pretty awful. Still don't really like this art style very much either. In fact, the attack on House Van Tassen was entirely my idea. I simply planted the seed in his impressionable mind. We kind of figured that was the case. And why did I do it? Let me ask you a question in return. Imagine if Van Tassen's had worked for you instead of the other way around. If you'd been in charge, wouldn't you have won the battle with your superior knowledge and tactics? Wouldn't you have what you wanted? So why weren't you? ... Wow, they really wrote no dialogue for him. The houses are weak after centuries of decadence. They don't deserve what they have. But we do, by the very fact we can take it from them. I'll rule House Colvane easily enough once I'm cleared of the assassination you tried to pin on me. The damages from the explosion will have to be repaired too, of course. I'm generous. You can get what remains of House Van Tassen. Then we can simply evenly divide the other houses between us as we overtake them. What do you think? I'm what's wrong with you? Why aren't you saying anything? Oh, he was just a dummy this whole time. The whole game or just in this conversation? I guess probably in this conversation. So the smoke of hallucination was released on him, I guess. Is that no, you're not even here, or you've already gone. I get it, huh? Good news. Good one, Anataeus. Good one, yes. Ha 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 ah. my plans, my Opus Magnum. So the Opus Magnum, the whole name of this game is apparently the bad guys Opus Magnum, which really undercuts all the work we've been doing for all these other puzzles up until this point. And that's where they're going to leave it, I guess. Concealed letter. I can barely even read this. There's faded out parts all over. Dear Concordia and Anataeus, I assume. I don't know if this letter will reach you, but I thought I would try. Regardless, occasionally Nils is able to impress me. I wanted to express my something thanks to you both. I know that what you did was not for me, for my sake, but your work and your actions benefited me. Nonetheless, I owe you that recognition. At least the coming days are dangerous ones as ambitious powers rush to fill in the vacuum left by the fall of House Van Tassen and the collapse of House Gylvain. But in truth, I wonder if it really was a bomb that just collapsed them. We never really got a good idea if it was hallucination potion to distract people while a bomb went off, or if it was poison from the lipstick, or if the lipstick was just to counteract the hallucination poison. They really didn't explain it well enough to me as far as what was going on in between the hours and hours of doing the puzzling. I think most people would probably forget or just never even pay attention to the story as they're trying to struggle through the puzzles. But in truth, the game itself has not changed at all, only the players. I offer you the protection of House Soraya if you ever feel you need it or have interest in joining us. But my sense of it is you've more than your fill of cities, battles, and intrigues, of the cities and battles and intrigues. When I picture you now, I imagine you've set off on a journey somewhere very far from here. Safe travels, Clara. And then if you look at the faded out letters alone, I don't, it says, don't let well reach are the unfaded parts, but I thought doesn't really feel like there's a code there. The faded parts out. Know if this you my try regardless. I don't think there's any code there either. I think they've just intentionally made an incredibly difficult to read picture. And that's the credits, apparently. So I guess Zachtronics is named after Zach Barth. What can I really say about this game other than what I've said for the past dozens of hours, that I really don't feel like this is a Turing-complete programming language at all. I don't think it's a programming language at all. I think it's macros, something most akin to a pick-and-place programming macro system where computer components and chips would be picked up and placed, but it's not even really to that point. And so I'm very much not pleased with the experience I had here. I'm really at no point was I having much fun at all. In fact, pretty much no fun. Let's see if the appendix, which maybe is another chapter, will give us something new. Fontenelle's alchemical observations. Given the way alchemy alchemical engines work today, it is easy to forget that the most important alchemical device in history were created under the constraint of a severely limited space. Working with miniaturized production model transmutation engines is sometimes called production alchemy. And though interest in this particular approach has waned over the years, it remains an important part of the alchemical engineer's work. Big words. That is why I have endeavored to give more examples of alchemical machines I have encountered in situ in Siru in my travels in and around the city, specifically specifying only reagents and products, and for which clever alchemists studying this book will prepare their own solutions. Augustine Fortinelli, ALDIAG, which I guess is probably alchemical degree. So I don't think we've ever made silver paint before. Let's just see what this looks like. And now it is just straight up a book. It is strange to recall the one time House Jovenel's Promenade of Light was considered an impressive architectural achievement. The time has long passed, of course, and many larger but far more impressive structures have been built by the houses across the city since then. Today, the Promenade of Light would not make an appearance on any serious list of the finest achievements, being as it is dominated by immense works of staggering beauty, such as the glittering dome of House Soraya or the newly restored Great Hall of the former House Van Tassen. So this is taking place after this story. Perhaps facing that it might fall entirely out of favor, fearing that it might fall entirely out of favor, House Juvenile recently sought to renovate the historical promenade by repainting it with some new coat of its famous lustrous silver paint. The paint represented an improvement on the original formula, which dated back to the imperial era and had begun to tarnish. The end result is that the Promenade of Light shines anew, and a brief visit will confirm that it does retain a kind of quaint, unassuming charm of its own, especially if one has nothing better to do with one's time. So I wonder if this book is really just being written by Anataeus. Dragging and rotating parts. Why are we getting tutorials at the end of the game, frankly? Remember that you can press WASD while dragging parts to change their initial rotation and length. This works in any puzzle, but is especially useful in the restricted space of a production model transmutation engine. Yeah, this looks like this is a nightmare on top of a nightmare. Particularly since we have the game at a low resolution. There's nothing seemingly new going to come out of any of this. Wow. So this whole thing, if anything, is just trying to force you to I'm hitting WASD and this is not moving anywhere. I guess you have to drag it that way. Yeah, this doesn't feel right. We may very well just look at these puzzles and give up here. And like a post-credits rage quit is not something I think I'd be too upset by. Because, yeah, this whole process is ridiculous. I suppose You might be able to reach across, but nope, you can't cross barriers. This is the exact opposite of what I thought you would do. Like, really. Just the exact opposite of what I thought they would have given you. I suppose if this may just be a case where you have an arm somewhere like here and you just make your combinations that way. I wouldn't even be surprised if in this incredible limited solution you have to actually put the arm here and make the combinations that way. Make one, then pivot and rotate. I don't even know if you really could do that or not. I don't even know what the apparently you can move the conduits, which that might be slightly useful, but they're not even like starting spots, or so you can't like drag a conduit off. So what's the real solution to something like this? And even at the low resolution screen, even constricted as such, it's still too big. Really wish there was a way to zoom out. Like a lot of these icons in particular, like you could easily zoom them down to potentially even half their size and still recognize what they are. They are pretty simplistic images and icons. So I think you would have to break that. I think you potentially pick something up and then break it, and then combine it with something else. But how you're even gonna begin to put everything together? I think you probably put everything together here. Maybe that would make a little bit more sense. Yeah. And then, yeah, you're almost certainly going to use something like this. Grab it and then drop it. And I assume that's probably your best bet. And then here. Start with this. What's the best way, most efficient way to get everything ready to go? Put one here, put one here. Yeah, I don't see any way that these puzzles aren't just going to be nightmare puzzles designed to drive you insane by constraining you and just putting these speed bumps in your actions for kind of no good reason. Is there any way this works without a track? I don't think it does. So that swing, probably swing the other way, swing, swing, reset, then grab, swing, let go, go, minus, and then extend, and then retract. What this really also tells you is that you should have always been focusing on area. Nothing else you did would have mattered. Like it's all about area when you get to these puzzles. Let's just see how this works. Put one there, put one there, grab that. Oh, this is a nightmare. Utter nightmare. Because you need to bring it up to silver, which means you need 2 of these. Which I think probably means you need some level of insanity that yeah, there's exactly 3 spaces here. I think you've got to use exactly 3 spaces. I think you've got to use exactly 3 spaces fairly wisely. So if you build one, then that clears over that way. Yeah, you've got to use every single space here to do this right. If you don't, it's going to be a nightmare. Can this piece even reach here? No. Can this piece even reach here? No. So it's a puzzle within a puzzle as far as where can you put this so it can kind of reach everything. Here, 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 here. I suspect the solution is actually you can't do this here with 2. I suspect the solution is actually you're just going to have to embrace the idea of making one, putting a copy here, and once you make one, making another one, and then putting that in place and picking up this one. Which would just mean this space is not going to be used. And then, yeah, I think we will just talk in theory at this point and not actually try and solve this. You would have to repeat that code 3 times to get 3 silvers. Once you put a silver down in this area, you're at that point dealing with this, which needs, I think, a glyph of binding. But certainly does explain why they told you to use the WASD, because you literally just can't. You can't move things without it. It's just not going to happen. Take this. Somewhere here. The problem with it would be, can we grab the number 2? Probably. Yeah. I think that works fairly well. But you're going to have some wonkiness and some weirdness as far as getting this center parts connected, because everything is going to want to spin. Yeah. I think that pretty much means you've got to have a connection here also. Or, I guess more accurately, well, yeah, it could be a connection there, like that. Or it could be somewhere else. Either one would work. So you get the pieces from the number 2, and then you'd have to get that to work somehow. Let's see. Let's just cheat. Not showing up just as a discussion on Steam. Let's just type in the Google Opus Magnum silver paint. Okay. I don't even know what I'm expecting to really see here. Like, because yeah, I still would have to put the code in, and so yeah, I can't really do that. There's just YouTube videos. So yeah, I could generally say yes, I see some things here, but that's kind of it. And I assume this person's playing at 1080p, and even at 1080p, the screen is barely fitting. So yeah, let's see. The solution I see here, which this may be not the best solution by far, is, let's see, a 2-track here, a not splitter, but well, actually yes, a splitter here, and then this that way, like that, and then this here. But yeah, that makes some sense. Certainly, is that you would have code here that would grab this one, swing it up this way, pivot it to break it, potentially, or move this way, then unpivot it to break it, and then drop the thing. That's not crazy code. Pick up, rotate. Of course, even the act of rotating might crash into something once you start getting bigger items. Plus unpivot, and then rotate and reset. Let's just see what that does. We would need 2 unpivots. And that just, once it releases, shows up there. All right. Then the solution I'm seeing here has the final solution sitting here. What looks like a combiner here. A pivot arm here. Well, honestly, I'm not sure if it's not a case where it's that. I guess it's not. I guess it's probably a combiner here. And then either number 1 or number 2 is here, and then number 1 or number 2 is here. I can't see because it's created in such a weird way, which I can't even really deal with that code until I deal with this code, which seems to have a piece here. I didn't even realize that WASD was actually a relative spin. So it rotates counterclockwise or clockwise with the A and D instead of a true north or absolute north. Okay. I kind of feel like there's probably just an efficiency reason there's so much code here. It would definitely make a lot of sense. But it does seem like this would be kind of a nightmare scenario for 3, because you're going to have to pick up and then rotate twice and then reset, and then 4 can we pick up and rotate once, and then reset, and then 5 at that point is going to just have to pick up and rotate out of the way and not let go. Meanwhile, this is going to repeat its thing, and this is going to repeat its thing, and then this would probably want to go -1, pick up +1, reset. That reset doesn't feel like that's an actual reset from where it should be. It should have been picked up facing this way, and then here, and then maybe in one step I guess it does reset. Meanwhile, at the same time, 5 at some point here needs to be able to get past where it is. Reset. Then pick up, rotate, and reset. Yep. And we can't move anything out of the water, so pretty much means we have to put a 3-step break. Which means that doesn't need to happen that fast. That doesn't need to happen that fast. That doesn't need to happen that fast. This one, I don't think until that point needs to happen. I wonder if I can move this back one more. Nope. Best case scenario is to do that, take that. Why is it now turning backwards? This one needs more time. This code needs to happen a couple steps earlier. Not quite there. Well, if a piece is just there, let me ask this question. If I just drop something in place, I mean, I think that's pretty much what you have to do, is you have to drop it, and then you have to have this arm grab it and throw it back out there. As stupid as that might sound, just grab it and then reset. Meanwhile, this This one resets and needs to be able to grab. I think at that point. Yeah. Apparently grabbing alone is not good enough. You potentially have to take it off and then put it back. Either that or the timing was just wrong. Yeah, the timing was just wrong. Alright, so that does throw it back. And I guess at a certain point, this one is going to have to go negative twice from its reset position, which actually probably shouldn't be a reset position. It should just be a pick up, rotate, let go, and then -2, pick up, +2, reset. And what you're gonna do is just rotate and reset. And I think that's about it. Atoms may not collide. And they are colliding over here in a place we have yet to deal with. Yeah. What number one would have to do after it drops is either not rotate, not reset, but instead just rotate, go -1, grab, go +1, rotate, and then reset. Then we have a collision here. So, which one comes first? The blue? Yeah, there's arguably barely enough time for this to even work. Just like very quickly, potentially pick something up, rotate, and then let go. And rotate 2 more times. Yeah, that doesn't happen fast enough. Yeah, you're just going to constantly run into these speed bumps. There's no way around it. It is going to be an ultimate nightmare scenario. where you're gonna have to bump things and make little debug changes, and you're just gonna have to work in what is, I think, just in insanely limited circumstances for no good reason. It's not like this is embedded or micro-controlling programming. It definitely doesn't feel like that's what this is trying to simulate by it being so constrained as far as actual area and space. And we just have to basically put in a huge buffer time. Or we get rid of it faster. And I heavily suspect that these problems are things with only like one solution to them. Let's put that code back where it is. Number 5 is colliding. Why is number 5 colliding? Because number 4 is late. What happened there? Yeah, we changed one little thing. And that makes everything else have to move slower. Why is number 5 not moving faster? I definitely feel like you could have a million different variations on this puzzle. Like, frankly, just like exactly a million different variations on this puzzle. Or no, well over a million variations on this code and this problem, because you could just make a little change here, you can make a little change there, and then it would just be its own different thing. I think I finally figured out what I was doing wrong there. And then last piece of code. Okay. And then theoretically, you would repeat this code 3 times, or 2 more times. And number 5, is number 5 the one that would repeat the code 3 times? Or is it 3 and 4 also that would repeat the code 3 times? 1, 2, 1, 2. What happened that it decided to just speed up at that point? Seriously, what optimization could we have? I think since I was already using repeat, maybe you do something like that. Just so they all line up. Yep. Yeah, I said I was going to do this in theory, not in practice. And see, this is the solution I'm seeing for the most part. The next part of it, though, seems to imply you actually start with the salt and you combine a salt here and then 2 of the metals here, which, I mean, I guess that would make sense, because if you could get the salt and you could put it here and then grab a metal and spin all the way around and put it here and then swing again, it would be here, which is a problem, but here isn't a problem. Then you take up that space and then you grab another metal and you drag it this way. Then you come and grab these 2 pieces that would be connected and you put it here, and then you swing this way. Then that leaves you room for the next thing. You just have to at some point get the air or the water and pick it up and stick it here, and when you stick it here, you'd have to be fairly careful to see that this part was already connected. So you'd have to kind of do this clock motion, the spin dial motion, and once everything was assembled, it's easy enough to just grab it and drag it that way. So while this code is sorely lacking, this is the general layout that I'm seeing as a solution. But I don't want to do it. Let's just be honest here. They would have to throw us a very easy appendix. And we're running into the exact same problem where they're giving us 4 puzzles, so we could potentially jump around to 4 puzzles if we get frustrated, but then you still have to beat all 4 puzzles to unlock the next group of 4 puzzles. And yeah, I don't think that's worth it. Again, this game has no achievements other than playing Sigmar's Garden, which seemingly you don't even get the better version or the different version of Sigmar's Garden until after at least 25 victories. I wouldn't be surprised if it's actually 100 victories of the original Sigmar's Garden, which is not a fun solitaire equivalent at all. It only exists in this game because SHENZHEN I had a solitaire game that was very popular, so popular that they eventually spun it out and sold it as a separate game. But that doesn't mean every single Zachtronics game should have an attempt at some spin-off solitaire game. I'm not even going to read this. Pause the screen now if you want to read this. It's just a wall of text. Does seem like you get something different in your constraints. Which, alright, there might be something that makes that a little bit more doable. Seems like you almost certainly would not be able to to use the item that destroys extra pieces, though. I think that would be forever impossible. Honestly, this feels like this could be fairly simple. If you take this and you go over this way, probably with this the other direction, I think this would just immediately give you what you need. Let's just try it. Pick one up and go plus. See how that works. Yeah. Works just downright brilliantly. The only real problem is your center spot here, because you have 7 components and you're going to potentially get groups of 2. So how do you get that 7th one to work for you? You either disconnect things and leave one for later, which wouldn't be too hard to pull off. And then this is just going to be incredibly frustrating. Yeah, and they didn't give you any like tutorial or anything here where you could focus in on that. If you're going to use this component, you're going to potentially have to have that much space. So it seems like you pretty much just want to build more tracks for the rest of this. And I couldn't even care about cycles or money, so let's not be ridiculous around that. Alright, well, you do that, and then you would be here, and then I think you probably rotate. And then rotate again. And then maybe you unpivot. And then you rotate again. Let's see where that would put it. Nope, not unpivot, but pivot. Unpivot is completely the wrong word to say there. Yep. Okay, so then you would just go plus and rotate it back in the right direction a couple times, plus plus plus, extend and reset. Which arguably I probably shouldn't do the code like that first. I should probably put this one down first, but whatever. Because you're gonna have to do a very delicate dance to make sure everything is in the right place first. Put that there. But then what we'll start to do is just duplicate the code plus rotate, and then pivot. Although I don't know if a pivot really is even necessary. We'll see. And then this part should just be plus rotate. Probably don't need a pivot, and instead just need 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then extend, and then reset. It just then bumps all the code way out here. I'd like to be able to finish one of these puzzles, but I also I'm not going to be surprised if I don't. And I think this will definitely be the last episode of the series. Okay, next piece of code. It's kind of the same code, but pick up plus, and then I think we've got to rotate and then extend, and then just go plus twice. Let's see if that works. Almost. We do need to rotate. Need to pivot it back a couple of times. This is probably as good of a place as I need to do that. And then we're just hoping that there will be enough room to swing that by. And there isn't. Well, that's easy enough to fix. We'll just move all the code further along. Rotate. Probably a pivot there. Probably another pivot there. And then plus. And this is all area efficiency. It's no way would you care about cost, because there's not really a way you could go crazy with cost here. You could add a few more components, but you're so limited in area anyways. Oddly, this is not counting area even. It's counting the number of instructions, which the number of instructions being kept small is just a slap in the face because you don't have functions. I could significantly reduce the amount of written instructions if I simply was just not forced into yeah, I think I have to put the center one in later. This is going to be a nightmare. Let's just put some code here. So that's right. this part. We want move around. I feel like there's very little that you could change to reduce the number of instructions as this has been set up and as this plays. Okay. Not too bad. Just needs another plus here, I think. Which then just has us nudge everything further along. Where's that code? Well, change this code with a pivot instead. See if that works. Pivot will work, but we still need another rotation after the fact. I guess we need another pivot at that point to undo. Wow. Yep. That is exactly what I keep expecting to see happening, is in such constraints, mistakes and problems will arise in such a way that you would just never consider them. Okay. So now is the difficult part, because this will be here. We need it to be able to drop here. And we can't get it to drop there. Not in its current condition. So if it was here, let go one more grab. So now it would be here. And then go back to here, and reset. And this does not mean we're done. If anything, it means now we have to copy our code almost exactly, but not quite exactly, a second time. Because we have to take this other piece and use it as the center, since we had that extra piece. But once you've done that point, you're done. And for code efficiency, you might very well just argue, take another arm, grab this, and drop it down this way for the 5 positions. You could easily do that. Just have a track that grabs the one and has specific codes to go to a certain place and place it, but at that point you would still be writing specific code for no good reason. There's just no copy and paste here. it's total insanity. Alright, well, we'll do it again from our own mind. Pick up plus, rotate, and pivot, and then actually not pivot, rotate, and then a whole bunch of pluses. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then extension and reset. Let's see if that works to get that back to there. Not quite, but close enough that I know what to fix. That one. Next bit of code would be pick up plus, rotate, and then this is the one that should pivot a couple times, and then go 1, 2, 3. And then I'm gonna just put a let go here and see if that gets it in the right place. Alright. Now the reason I want to put a let go here is because that would be here. So it would be fairly easy at that point to simply rotate once here, twice here, 3 times. 1, 2, 3. Extend, grab, and then I imagine we need to retract. At that point, the ball should be here. I mean, let's not retract. Let's see if we can just continuously now rotate 1, 2, 3 and see if we'd hit something. I think we probably would. And then see if that works. Crash into a wall. Yeah, I can't see any reason why this would, like, why I would want to keep on playing this, particularly since I think there is probably some online functionality to this where there will just be user submitted puzzles forever, kind of like a Mario Maker game, although very different in its general game engine implementation. Yeah, that's what I thought. Can't just grab and rotate. You've got to grab and then retract, rotate 3 times, and then extend, or rotate 2 times, extend and rotate. Let's see how that works. Nope, not quite there. It needs to be extend, rotate, and then plus. And then the last one will be just grab plus, and then rotate, pivot, pivot. I think at that point it's also let go. I can see people also not seeing this trick where you can just turn a item and salt into two items. And frankly, I guess that trick just doesn't really happen. Or is it that it ended? Feels like it reset. Why would it have reset? Pivot, pivot. Let go. Actually, it should have been pivot, pivot. Plus let go. Now, arguably, I would say, like, Mario Maker in itself only survives mostly in its fandom and was kind of poorly supported by Nintendo anyways. Okay, I see what happens here. You grab it, you go plus, you rotate, pivot, pivot. You need two extensions there. That should work. Then plus, grab, minus, minus, reset. Fingers crossed this will work. But there is definitely a lot more happening in Mario Maker than this. Even if you're just talking about Mario Maker 1 and not including Mario Maker 2. But that nostalgia definitely would build a higher engagement in a larger community compared to something like Opus Magnum, which all you're doing is moving marbles around compared to, say, moving around Mario or components of a Mario game. So we did get one of the appendix puzzles done. And you can see, yes, they are calculating the number of instructions, and the number of instructions I used is really high. And I don't know really a great way you would reduce instructions without also almost certainly reducing cycles. I don't know how you'd particularly reduce cost in any of these. These are such constrained challenges. It would just drive me batty to even try it. Apparently, like, the number of cycles can get down extremely low in this. And yeah, the book doesn't even give you any more story when you do it. So let's just look real quickly at what this puzzle would be. Three different products it's asking for. One with iron and two earths, one with iron and salt in one way, and one with iron and salt in another way, which you can kind of guess that you can make iron and salt one way, well, I guess it's mirrored, so you would have to do something different. And you can't have three solutions in the other area, so you'd almost have to assume that these solutions are going to be something like this. Although maybe that's wrong. Something where you could grab it and then push it into place. Yeah, this is just another example though of a really constrained puzzle for no good reason. We've not gotten any new glyphs or any new mechanisms. Like, that's what I was expecting to see, was new glyphs, new mechanisms fairly frequently appearing. If that was fragrant powders, was this rat poison? Look like rat poison. Oh, apparently conduits only can move single elements unless they have a connection. Well, that totally would make me have to rethink how I even theoretically would have solved the previous puzzles. Pretty much means that you have to build everything in its final resting space. Wow. And they're straight up going to have you use the Glyph of Destruction that takes up a ridiculous amount of space. Seems like they would, because the only other thing you could do is try and make a Vims and Vigor, which I don't know what the Vims and Vigor, I guess you have to do that to get those two components. So it's fairly easy to get this part of it made. It's only slightly difficult then to break more of these apart and drop the other waters into the Glyph of Disposal. I guess that's what it's called. This kind of feels doable, but like, why bother? Like, where does this all lead? You would have to solve this one, and you'd have to solve this one. Then it's going to give you 4 more that would just be nightmares, and I would spend, I suspect close to 5 more 3-hour episodes doing this at minimum, and I just don't see a reason. Let's click on this now that it's no longer a spoiler. We have a journal here, the Journal of Alchemical Engineering, part 3 of a 3-part series. Hyper volatile gas. Which, see what this looks like. Seems like this is a puzzle around breaking things apart and rearranging things. You're gonna have to have triple bonds of the fires and regular bonds of everything else. You're gonna have to pass tons of things over, pretty much everything over the breaking. This might be a point where something like this might come into play and you are just gonna rearrange everything. It looks slightly interesting, but not super interesting. And at this point, it seems like you're just going to get this image, nothing else. What does this do? Yeah, it's just going to be this same shading, I think, each time. Yeah, they didn't even bother writing any dialogue, which frankly it doesn't need it. But some of these are also severely limited things, and I have no idea how you would make this middle atom. You have a Glyph of Unification, This glyph unifies or transmutes one atom of each of the 4 cardinal elements into one atom of quintessence. And quintessence was the name of the advanced Sigmar's Garden. Was a quintessent Sigmar's Garden. And so this introduces a concept of taking one atom of the 4 cardinals, merging it and splitting it, which at a certain point that dangerously does approach a function of some sort, a level of compression, but it's pretty useless otherwise. And to get the 4 cardinal things, since you only have salt here, you still would have to have something here spinning, and I think you probably would have to have something fairly crazy just ready to go, like just to squeeze things in. I don't think this would work, so you'd have to rotate this. Let's see. And then if you're rotating it, then all of a sudden it's not vertical and not even. I have a hard time even seeing a position where this lines up. You have to do this basically. Yeah. And then probably something like that. And something like that. And then, I mean, you only have 1 salt available to you at all, so if you put this here and you grab this and put it here, it's going to take up too much space. You're going to have to get rid of this and get rid of this and hope you can reach all of this on some kind of track, but I don't know. Kind of can't reach the salt on the track. Yeah, it's a nightmare. Again, just another nightmare puzzle that would take hours and hours to create. Here we have embalming fluid. Is that introducing anything new? No, and it takes away the quintessence. So we basically are going to see 1, maybe 2 quintessence puzzles, and that's it. It says volume something from the High Alchemical Symposium. Here we have maybe a more basic beginning of the idea of quintessence, since you just have a big open field to work with there. So I would probably want to play with that. But I guess the appendix probably doesn't do anything as far as quintessence does. And these must be released, or must have been released over a certain amount of time, because like there's a back button here and it wasn't at the beginning. Yeah, there's quite a lot of stuff here, and some of this is, I think, fairly simplistic. Like, make Van Berlo's wheel. Feels like that should have been in the game by default, or make something that's very similar to Van Berlo's wheel. That would make a lot of sense. But I don't feel like if you made something here, that then would become a component or an item you could use in previous puzzles, and that's really what this game needs more than anything, is for you to be able to copy and paste your creations and your successes in previous code over to new code. Yeah, the rest of these seem like they're mostly just large, somewhat more complicated puzzles, things that I assume just did not play particularly well in playtesting at all. Here you have a goal to make some quintessence. Is that what this is really called? Elemental quintessence from distilled alcohol. Then you have Sigmar's Garden in a different format, which I assume just adds a quintessence symbol instead of maybe more salts. Like, we have all 4 elements here, so if there was a way to click on all 4 elements, you would potentially have solved it there. All right. Click these. Click these. So I think I have all 4 here. Do I have the earth or just the air? I think that should do it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. So you click on this, and then you click on all 4 of these, and it gets rid of them. That's not super surprising as far as how that would work. Of course, that I think fairly raises your odds of failure. Oops. I'm missing the other green. Still missing the other green. Yeah, and because you have to match 2 quintessences, you are in a dangerous position where it's going to be fairly easy to mess up and fail. Let's see. And we got lucky there, and we won. But I really don't see a reason why you would want to play the quintessence Sigmar's Garden at all. It is marked off as finished, so you do get that kind of marker. Because yeah, I don't want to play Sigmar's Garden. Why would I want to play Quintessence Sigmar Garden? You can make your own puzzles, or you can browse the Steam Workshop, and it just pops up the Steam Workshop overlay. And let's see, how do you close the Steam Workshop? What is it? Control Tab. Escape. Yeah, I guess escape works. But yeah, why would I want to look at other people's creations? Seems kind of ridiculous. Here we could make we can make something with, I guess, everything available to us. And you can have a product that is either ... or a triple bond or regular bond. So click on it and then you click on it. It's not even a very good interface. Okay. Let's save the product. Let's try this puzzle. So that's everything you can possibly get. What we didn't do here, let's see, is the reagent. That's what we needed. So what we're looking for is just like the ultimate, most efficient code, cheapest code one could possibly do. Pick up, rotate, and reset. And the fact that you can't get the code any shorter than 4 lines of code tells you something. Just by default. 20 gold, 3 area. The number of products seems to always be 6 no matter what. Of course, you don't get any histogram. There. And so how many cycles was that? 23? So if you'd done more of this at a certain time, there might have been room for a level of improvement. Let's see, pick up, extend, reset, and then pick up, extend, and reset. 13. Seems unlikely you could speed that up any further. Like if you add another one here, that gets in the way. If you add one here and say like pick up, retract, and reset. How many was that? 13 cycles still? Because it's just not grabbing something at that point. Like there's only so many times that the salt could be there. You of course could potentially see make more reagents, but seemingly like, oh well, how do you even undo that then? Yeah, seemingly you can only have 4 reagents. Like, so fairly limited even as a custom editor. So yeah, I'm not sure if there's really a change to something like this, because more than likely you will just have something crash since you have only one exit. Yeah. Maybe you could get a slight toggle that way and get it down to 8. Try it again, I guess. Pick up, retract, and reset. Nope. You run into a crash again. I don't even know why you run into a crash, really. Guess you have to be here. You see, that's still 8 as far as efficiency, and that's getting fairly annoying audio-wise. Yeah, the only thing I could kind of guess is maybe with a third mechanism, you could maybe put a bit of code here, but probably not, because then that would just crash again. Yeah. I think this probably is the maximum amount of efficiency you can do. We can definitely try it, but yeah, you're just gonna crash to do anything else. So yeah, that's as much as you could possibly speed up the action of picking up something and dropping something, which that creates a hard limiter that's fairly high as far as the amount of code and such that you would actually have to use to solve any puzzle. Is there anything else that we need to talk about or cover? Yeah. I would say I think these credits are particularly small. Like, I don't feel like Zachtronics is a team of like 10 people that worked on this. This feels like, even though it is a fairly bad programming macro language, I feel like there was probably at least 5 more people. I wouldn't be surprised if there's 100 more people that actually QA'd this game or tested this game or programmed it. Maybe not. Maybe they took what they had learned from SHENZHEN I and just kind of copy and pasted it to make this game. I feel like it's fairly ridiculous to have an appendix that feels like it is extra puzzles, and then to at some point in a later point add a journal that adds more puzzles. It kind of feels like I've only gotten halfway through the entirety of the game. And the fact that there is a journal here that gives you a whole bunch more puzzles and an appendix that gives you more puzzles really makes me feel like, at the very least, Zachtronics wants you to believe that there is a large, like, very fervent fan base for this game, and I question if that is really true. I just don't think, having played several programming games, that this one really stands up to things like Human Resources Machine or even 7 Billion Humans, which wasn't even that good of a sequel to Human Resources Machine. So I would have to say no as far as recommending these games. I really don't recommend games, but I just give my experience. And my experience on this one is that it was incredibly frustrating, incredibly long. I have zero desire to play Sigmar's Garden. I have zero desire to go back and redo any of these puzzles or improve on any of these puzzles. And you really need that to happen in a puzzle, in a programming game. There really needs to be a desire. Honestly, I would be more motivated at this point to go back and play 7 Billion Humans and improve the code there. I think Opus Magnum really goes to show that a visual only programming language does not make sense at all, because the icons, even though they were incredibly small, still took forever because there was no functionality to them, and they were completely unmanageable. By the time you were even halfway through the game, you were writing code using the visual icons that was insanely long, and there was tons of scrolling. I don't like the combination of a physical mechanism at the top getting in the way of the programming, on top of the fact that it's not really programming. As far as I can tell, it's not Turing complete, because you can't jump back or forward in the code. If there is some way of doing that, it eluded me. I never saw a solution of anything like that. So just on nearly every aspect, even the visual novel elements and storyline, which could have been completely excised from the game, and I wouldn't have complained. Like, even that part I didn't like. And it kind of went nowhere, too. To at the last second reveal that the Alchemist was the bad guy is not much of a twist. Because we already knew he was the bad guy. If he was the mastermind or not, it really didn't matter, because nothing happened there. All right, well, we're approaching 3 hours, so I think we'll just end this series here. I have no desire to play it any further. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos, because that helps me with YouTube and the dumb YouTube algorithm. If you go to my main YouTube page, there's a playlist tab that has a playlist for every game I've ever covered. I would heavily recommend, if you saw a glimmer of appealing light in this game, you probably will be very happy with something like 7 Billion Humans or Human Resources Machine. Human Resources Machine first, I would recommend, as it is the first game in that series. I probably have played some other programming games amongst the decent amount of programming I've done in the real world, but I can't really think of one off the top of my head. And I've definitely covered a whole bunch of puzzle games, but usually they're not anywhere as complicated as this. And then I've covered a lot of other games with playlists to check out. If you want to friend or follow me on any social media sites so you can make sure you get notifications, there's a bunch of links down below for that also. And if you would be so kind, you can support me by clicking on the link down below to Patreon, or you could just friend me on Steam and gift me a gift card or a game. That's also very helpful. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.